So when I think about the individual standouts from Saturday's game, guys whose performance requires a by name shout out on the show, there are a lot of guys, and shockingly, or not a lot of them are on the defensive side of the ball, except for the first guy, and that's Nico Reed. So I was texting my brother and a buddy during the game, as I often do, and my friend asks, who's going to make a play? Because Oregon's defense is in a spot up by 8, 2 minutes to go, trying to hold. There was the whole debacle with the fair catch and whatnot. And oh my gosh, he clearly waved his hand. That's why Taishim let up. And then they got the call right and such. And then it was who's going to make a play. And my first response was not the safeties. They did not have a great day in coverage. Did some good things at times, made adjustments in the second half. There are not going to be shout outs from the safeties here. It was not a pretty day for the back end of Oregon's defense. But Nico Reed, Oregon legend. Oregon legend with that play. That is the textbook dictionary definition of perfect coverage. You cannot do it any better than that. He turns and runs. He turns his head. He locates the ball. He catches it. He's not making contact whatsoever with the wide receiver. He's just blanketed him. He's got him pinned to the sideline, but he's not pushing him there, so there's no flag. Catches the ball, keeps it off the ground, turns his body, stays in. Like, you could not draw that up any better. And I coming into the season, did not think we'd be as high on Nico Reed as we are. And he wasn't perfect in this game either. Got beat for a long touchdown in the first half when Penn State went on a 14-3 run to pull within 7 at the break. But when his best was needed, he came through. Number one shot. Yes, I shouted him out before I shouted out Dylan Gabriel and Tez Johnson. Those guys are kind of obvious. They had a phenomenal game. But who made the play of the game? There were a lot of individual moments and sequences in which the offense was able to execute. But that play, that was all Nico Reed. Drew Aller had time. He took a shot. Nico Reed said, no, we're going to end the game right here, right now. So Nico Reed is individual shout out numero uno. Number 2, one of the matchups I highlighted coming into this game, one of the reasons I was confident Oregon would win, is Penn State's defense, which has been great this year, and against the Oregon offense, allowed more yards than they had against anybody all season. The reason I was confident is the strength for Penn State is the edge of the defensive line. Abdul Carter, I forgot the other guy's name, admittedly. He had a half a sack. Another guy had half a sack. They got to Dylan Gabriel once. Abdul Carter did not have a sack or a tackle for loss in this game. That is, number 1, great game planning by Will Stein and Alik Terry. But number 2, a Johnny Cornelius and Josh Connerly. Chef's kiss. That was exquisitely good. Exquisitely good. You cannot ask for anything more than the way those guys play. Also, shout out Kenyon Sadiq for a pancake block on Abdul Carter on Oregon's last touchdown to Jordan James when he ran up the middle. Carter kind of jumps inside of Cornelius, and Sadiq just boom, wham, blocks him and pancakes him to the turf. Awesome moment. But play in and play out. They wanted to get after Dylan Gabriel. 284, 4 touchdowns, sacked 1 time, no interceptions, no fumbles. Guys were balling at the tackles. They're playing on Sundays after this year. We just got to accept that. I mean, Johnny's done. Connerly could technically come back, but I mean, performances like that against a top 10 NFL draft pick, your draft stock, dude, shooting up. Absolutely shooting up. Next, I would like to shout out the specialists in this game. Ross James, Atticus Sappington, Andrew Boyle as well, who kicked an extra point, and Gary Bryant Jr. What was your assessment of the Oregon special teams in this game? My assessment is they were perfect. Sappington, no kicks out of bounds. I believe all touchbacks on the kickoffs. With the number of points that were scored in this game, that was pretty impressive. He was kicking really well. Made his only field goal to give Oregon a 7-point lead. Boyle made his only extra point. I have thoughts on that in a moment. Ross James had 2 incredible punts, and the defense was only able to back it up 1 time. Led to the interception, by the way, of Dante Manning and 7 points. Those sorts of things, you don't think about them a lot, but that first great punt from Ross James was huge, and then the second one, the defense blew it. the face mask against Harmon, the chunk plays, and Penn State went right down the field for a scoring drive going 89 yards or so. So that was disappointing to be sure. But I thought the special teams, Gary Bryant caught every punt. There were no miscues, nothing. In a game like that that's going back and forth, you can't allow a momentum swing on special teams. And those guys were absolute nails across the board. They were all really good. I have a theory on Andrew Boyle. So we have seen him come in throughout the course of games, even though Sappington's kind of the short range guy and Boyle's the long range kicker, we've seen Boyle come in and kick an extra point sometime. He hasn't missed one this season, at least not that I can remember. But my theory is that is Lanning and special teams coach Joe Lorig preparing for the possibility of Boyle kicking a 45-plus yard field goal or a 50-yard field goal. My theory is they don't want that kick. If a 50-yard field goal comes along, they don't want that kick to be his first kick. So they give him an extra point, a confidence boost, like putting a guy in off the bench and trying to get him a play to go to the free throw line. Get him an easy one, get him in rhythm, and then say, okay, here's what you're in to do. That's just my theory. I don't know that that's the answer, but I had that thought during the game. Like maybe they're trying to just get him loose. Maybe they want him to just be in a rhythm at least a little bit. If it just at least one kick, it's better than no kicks. And coming out cold trying to kick 50-yarder, see it go through the uprights and such. So that was my thought there. Talked about Kenyon Sadiq. Wrapping this up for my shout-outs today. Noah Whittington ran phenomenally well. And I actually thought at times they were going to Whittington too often. You know, the hot hand is a difficult thing to manage when you have two running backs as capable as James and Whittington, but it's hard to argue with the results because I'm a huge Jordan James fan and he's dominating in the red zone, and that's where, you know, he's always been at his best because that's where he started out as a true freshman back in 2022. But Oregon averaged 4.5 yards a carry. That includes Gabriel, just 6 carries for 17 yards. But James, 4.4 yards a carry. Noah Whittington, 15 for 82 yards. There were times where he looked even better. There were times where he looked like the best version of himself in this game when Oregon really needed it because you saw the value of having two quality running backs on the other side. Why are Nick Singleton and Katron Allen hard to tackle? Number one, they are thick and powerful guys. And number two, they're rotating so often, they're always fresh. So when they're on the field, you're never getting them worn down. And that's why they ran through all of Oregon's arm tackles. And the number 2 running back spot, let's be honest here, Whittington hasn't always been great. But second half of the season, he's really come on. I thought that was the best game he has played. I thought it was better than Purdue. I thought it was better than Illinois. The way that he was moving side to side, the way that he was getting through tackles and reading the holes, mostly correct. There was one in particular he missed late in the game when Oregon was trying to run out the clock the first time and then they had to punt. Eventually, he missed a cutback lane. That was the only time I felt like he made the wrong read. Held on to the football, ran really well, awesome day, and I'm stoked for Whittington for having that game in that spot. And that's the guy who I thought coming into this year, you might have a 1A, 1B situation. This is what I thought the backfield would look like. And I'm not lobbying against Jordan James being the clear-cut number 1, but I am not opposed to having this option available to say, hey, Noah Whittington's running well, and he brings something that Jordan James doesn't. James is a one-cut guy. Noah Whittington, boy, he was slicing and dicing, just knifing through the secondary and making those jump cuts that he is so well known for. And he looked really healthy. He looked explosive. He was decisive with his cuts, but he let his blocks get set up. He read it well on the outside when his receivers got out there. I thought the receivers did a great job blocking. I really liked what I saw from Noah Whittington in this game. Usually, there are more defensive standouts to talk about, but when you give up over 500 yards of offense and 37 points, well, not so many this week. But that can change once January 1st rolls around.